Welcome to another episode of the Community Podcast, a conversational podcast exploring the stories, insights, and strategies behind learning-centric communities. Our mission is to inspire listeners by highlighting individuals who are shaping the future of how people come together to learn, grow, and thrive. I'm honored today to welcome Shraddha Rawat and Parisha Jain, the visionary founders of the Learning Designers Community, a volunteer-led collective that uplifts and empowers learning professionals across the globe. At its core, LDC is a testament to the power of grassroots community building, a space for connection, shared resources, and professional growth in an industry that can sometimes feel isolating. With deep intention and care, both Parisha and Shraddha have cultivated an inclusive community where learning professionals come not just to skill up, but to belong. Parisha and Shraddha, it's awesome to have you on the show today. How are you both doing?
Wonderful. Very excited about this, Farhan.
Thank you, Farhan. Really excited.
Yeah, I'd love to have you both just briefly introduce yourselves and kind of give our audience a high-level understanding of your background, your roles, how you came to work together. So maybe Shraddha, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Well, I'd like to introduce myself first as a learning nerd because I just love learning about how human beings learn. I'm also a learning enabler. I love designing products, programs, cultures, processes, spaces that help people learn. I'm also a community builder, and I think today we're going to talk about that identity the most. And I'm also Pahari, which means I'm from the hills. I come from a small hilly town in the lower Himalayas, northern part of the country, northern part of India. I think that's my identity. Professionally, I'm one of the founders of LDC, the Learning Designers Community, which is a global network of 4,300 plus learning professionals from development, education, and corporate sectors of 38 countries. Our focus is on advancing innovative and impactful learning. And within the community, I wear multiple hats. So from thinking about where we are headed, the strategic direction of the community, to building the team that manages everything, um, conceptualizing our offerings, moderating our LinkedIn community, to then just basic stuff like coordinating meetings, creating posts, and creating content, following up with members, just all of that basically. That's me, Parisha.
Thank you, Shraddha. I am another learning nerd, needless to say, but I'm passionate about not just learning about learning, but also learning everything else. Really, I come from an interdisciplinary perspective, and I believe that learning is really the foundation of everything in the world. All the global challenges that we see in every context, so learning matters so much. And that's one of the reasons that I thought that, there's a need for learning designers community because learning has so much potential to create and amplify impact across the world, but it's not happening in the most effective human-centered way. I'm also the co-founder of LDC with Shraddha, and we do everything from strategic planning to the nitty-gritties of day-to-day, and we'll get into that. We'll get into the perks and the challenges of building a community. Let's dive right in.
Yeah, this is amazing. I mean, we are in a community of learning nerds. I think that can be said without any hesitation. One of the first things that drew me to LDC was actually one of my former podcast guests actually recommended that I reach out to Shraddha, and we built a great connection in terms of kind of the various areas that we align in, and a lot of our listeners will also be able to really, I think, have a lot in common with us as we talk about, the art of community building and learning as it pertains to the kind of global dimension, and a common denominator for people everywhere. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about LDC. So you guys both touched on this idea of LDC being this rapidly growing community. I've had a chance to attend your events and also see the great work that you're doing. But maybe take us a little bit back in time to how LDC was really started. And yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, Shraddha, you want to go ahead with the story?
How it started? Oh, wow. Okay. And also, I realized I didn't answer that question, Farhan. You had about how I met Parisha. Actually, the answers are connected. So, I feel like there's this time in your career when you feel you're not learning enough from information, right? You've read a lot and you're reading more and you're attending webinars and there's presentations, there's just information coming from all directions. And you feel like what will help you most is to connect with people who are playing similar roles, who are facing the same dilemmas, who are facing the same challenges. You just want to connect with those, and those conversations is what brings learning back to you and back to your work. So I had that. I was in that situation feeling like I don't need information. I need to talk to people, real people who are where I am. And so I was part of a Google group which had, I don't know how many thousands of people, instructional designers, faculty, mostly higher ed based community. And I sort of posted in that community saying, I'm looking for a community like this where there's regular conversations and we can have authentic conversations. It's not about marketing who you are and how awesome your work is. And this is my latest model. Uh, and I got like some 200 odd responses to that of people saying, we want to be part of this too. So, I mean, the first time we opened up an event, very few of those came. I mean, that was my first learning that it's not just because people show interest doesn't mean they'll automatically become members. There's much more to the art of community building, but Parisha turned up. And that's where we first met. And so, it's been a journey, but like I found like the person who was equally excited about this idea that we had in our mind. So that's really how LDC began. And since then, there's been no looking back. We've been actively at it for the last about 1.5 years. We've grown from zero to like 4,300 members, from just a couple of us from 2 countries to now people from 38 countries. But what we do exactly in LDC, I think, Parisha, you can tell more about what this community is and what we do.
Yeah. Before that, I just want to add that with Learning Designers Community, we are really building the place we wanted to be in, like we wanted to see, and which was totally missing, especially in this region, right? There are a lot of communities which are sector based, so there would be education communities, corporate communities, L&D, EdTech, but there's no community which is cross sectoral and where people from different sectors talk to each other. So I actually come from various backgrounds. So I have worked across sectors in all of learning context. And I kept noticing how all of these places had similar challenges and they could really learn from each other, but that wasn't happening. So, they were constantly working in silos and trying to reinvent the wheel. If only people could talk to each other and, a lot of problems could be solved, or at least, sharing the challenges in an authentic environment really would help them innovate better. So, so yeah, that was actually the cross-sectoral pollination of ideas was one of the more important reasons we continued the space, and we have been striving for. So a little more about LDC and what we do. We, as Shraddha mentioned, we are totally volunteer-led, and we have now about 4,300 members across 38 plus countries, grown organically in just over 12 months. And our what makes us stand out is really the cross-sectoral factor. So we bring together learning designers from education, corporate, nonprofit, edtech, and also we are, one of the few communities led by professionals from the global south, and also with strong representation across our membership from this region. And also, we are very proud of the fact that some members who believed in the vision of our community actually stepped up to contribute and became our active volunteers and collaborators. So we are now a core team of 7 collaborators and about 7 volunteers who emerged from the community itself. And so yeah, it's been exciting working with them, and to see their ownership to and passion for learning to create impact in the space. So, with the help of our team, we run completely open and free events such as webinar, expert talks, hands on workshops, and we also have LinkedIn and WhatsApp community where people can have asynchronous discussions. Then we have peer learning cohorts, so it could be based on Bohemian dialogue technique, or it could be the reading meetup cohort where we discuss research and learning science and share applications of the research in our practice. Then we also have casual meetups where people can just connect with each other, talk about their challenges, what's happening in their career, how they are upskilling in the new times. We also sometimes out of the learning cohorts or meetups, some collaborative projects emerge. Then we have cross-country education dialogues, which has been going on for a few months, and maybe Shraddha can talk more about that. In the cross-country education dialogues, we have senior leaders from 7 different countries who come together to envision what education's future could look like and what's its place in the world, and um, how do we bridge the gap between um, the learning and the education systems that are running currently versus where we want to be in order to solve all those global challenges and uh, ensure that the learners are really prepared for life in the world. So far, overall, we have hosted 60 plus events with leading global experts like Philippa Hartman, who is actually the AI expert in learning, and Professor Carl Kapp, who is the world's leading voice in gamification and learning. Then we had Guy Wallace, who is um, the leader in performance based learning design, and also Dr. Kavita Rao, who was herself a contributor to Universal Design for Learning Guidelines 3.0 and the earlier frameworks, and other similar experts. And we've also organized events in partnership with the organizations like UNESCO and UNICEF on different themes such as behavioral science, um, uh, and social and emotional learning. So
I
core
think we
topics
can
that they
go
work on.
on and on about all the work that we've done. The one thing that I think is stands out to me is this is a community that where every single question you ask gets answered. I think what I feel most grateful about is it's sort of attracted helpful people. So, not a single question goes unanswered. If you have a question about learning, which edtech product to use, a platform, I haven't tried this tool, I'm looking for more strategies, where are the resources, who might be the best person to talk to, can somebody give me feedback on my project, I'm looking for a job, all kinds of questions, and everything gets answered. I think that's something that I think just is very special about this place.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, just hearing both of you talk about this initiative and how it's blossomed over the past 12 months, I would say really has been the time period of the most active growth. It's really inspiring. I mean, one of the things that we talked about before was nurturing a community is a labor of love. It's a volunteer-led initiative. Everybody's a volunteer. But one of the things I loved about what you shared, Parisha, was that there are now the fact that it's an interdisciplinary community has broken silos. And I can't count the number of times I hear of organizations across the world in many different industries talking about silos being one of the biggest barriers to collaboration, to community building, to knowledge not being shared amongst different departments, right? Best practices kind of being held within the purview of one team or one department, whatever the case might be. So the fact that you've really taken that truly collaborative and interdisciplinary approach to building this community is huge. Uh, but I would love to understand, and I think you guys have both been touching on this topic a little bit, right? So my next question is going to be, what does community mean to each of you, right? And has that actually evolved over your time running the LDC community? So maybe we can hear from Shraddha first.
That's a very interesting question, Farhan. Frankly, uh, when I first, sort of invited people to be a part of a group that meets regularly, I had a very cohesive sort of group in my mind that would meet regularly. They're invested in each other's work and they know each other and everything. I think over time, as LDC expanded and friends invited friends who invited their friends, and we went on LinkedIn, and things just started spiraling. My idea of community has actually changed a lot. I mean, for one, I realized community is not a homogeneous unit, right? There are members who will be very active. There are active contributors who may eventually also become team members, moderators of the community. Then there are some who are moderately active, and then there are silent spectators, which may be like 80%, sometimes 70% to 90% of the community. But they are all participating, right? So this idea of community and what a member should do, I think initially I would expect everyone to, contribute, share, and help. But I think eventually, over time, I just realized that it's all right for some people to just be there because they want to access resources that others are sharing, or they're there just because they're part of many different communities, right? I think it's becoming being also realistic that this is their professional community. They may have interest based communities, so they will come to this when they have a question or when they find a resource that's exciting. So just one, I think in one way, this is one thing that I've learned about communities, that participation is not one thing, and there are all kinds of members in the community. The other thing that I feel sets a real community apart from brands that build communities around their products or around their ideas is really who gets to shape the agenda of the community, right? I think that it either makes a community or then a brand, a group that is an extension of the brand. So at LDC, every offering we've built has started with a member's interest or a passionate collaborator who stepped up to create something that they truly cared about. Nothing is top down, there's no hidden agenda. We're sort of constantly trying to listen to members and see how we can add value to them as educators, as learning professionals. So, members are really at the heart of the community. And I think when I really think about what a community is it truly member centric, member led? Are members the ones setting the community agenda? I think that's what builds a real community. That's something that I've discovered over time. Parisha, what is it for you? I'm also curious to learn.
Yeah, I think my answer is reverse of what Shraddha said, because I initially used to think that a professional community is just a network of professionals with shared interest. But with LDC, I've been seeing how people are really willing to give and receive, So my definition of community has also evolved, just seeing how people are so willing to help each other out, step up, start their own initiatives. And yeah, as Shraddha said, I think being member centric is really what makes a community. It's not just a network; it's a community, and just the people make it so.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, I think when it comes to, I think the reality for many communities that I've been involved in is somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Because I love the fact that so much of what you have been able to build has been so thoughtfully member centric, right? But then at the same time, depending on so many factors, participation may, fluctuate over time, right? I've seen in many of the communities that I'm a part of that certain events actually get maybe a lot more interest than others, right? Because again, people are busy. There's different, they have various preferences for what they want to devote their time to. But the fact that they are present
Mm.
in a community and actually part of the conversation, even if they're the silent spectators that are, generally not contributing, I think the fact that they're there proves something, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to leave. And most of us are in, I don't know, half a dozen Slack chats at any given time,
Absolutely.
and 10 plus WhatsApp chats, family chats and work chats and, group chats. So it's easy for people to leave. But the fact that somebody is staying at an initial level is a testament to the value that they feel that they can get, right? And then everything else is really around the design, around the empowerment, around the programming and everything else that both of you have been amazing at kind of being able to spearhead. I would love to take it one step further and understand a little bit about, as you're growing this community, now you have 4,500 members nearly, probably by this time next year, you'll get to many more thousands. How do you manage the community and the empowerment and the member-centric component day to day? To me, that sounds like a Herculean task. Like, oh, we need to have, tasks have to be delegated to different people on the team. How are we getting the input from a member, let's say, in Egypt or somebody in South Africa? How is that rising to, prominence and actually influencing programming and how you run the community day to day? So I'd love to understand some of those logistical elements that have really helped you grow.
Nice. Something that comes to my mind, Farhan, is just about a year and a half back. I think Parisha and I were working, we were sort of creating some micro learning course for community moderators. Uh, I think, had we started it, I mean, we weren't actively moderating LDC. It was just a small WhatsApp group with 80 members. But something that, so for that, we were doing a lot of research. And what I read in one of the reports was most people who start communities don't fully understand what it entails, right? Before they get in.
Mm.
And only when they start it do they fully begin to realize what their role is. And it can be very overwhelming in the beginning. So I think even though I'd created the course and I thought, like, okay, I'm not one of those because I've read these global reports on what it entails. But I don't think even I fully understood what it will mean to create, to build a vibrant community. There are many, many communities out there that are not very active or that will only post, share things once in a while, organize just a monthly event. But if you truly want engagement and, vibrancy, then it's different. But one thing that I think helps a lot is uh, community orientation. And what I mean by that is truly having a desire to serve. So whether you're serving other people or you're serving a field, right? It's just genuinely being interested in making learning more impactful, empowering. So the more members and team members and community members that have that community orientation, the higher the chance of community being vibrant. So there are, I mean, you're lucky if you have a lot of them, but you can also cultivate the spirit of community. And that, I think, what's helped. So, a couple of things that you said, nitty gritties, right? What are those? So, one is, I think it's very important to notice and recognize the members that contribute. Uh, in middle of everything else, just noticing that who are the guys who respond to others' requests and celebrating them. So once in a while, just saying that we really appreciate, and these are the guys who are contributing so much. Thank you. Just with a meme or with a heart or something like that. So just acknowledging contributors. There's sometimes you have to nudge and orchestrate conversation. So just because you know that members want to learn about a theme, and AI has been one for many months that a lot of people want to learn about, but they may not ask questions about, I don't understand something, right? You want to orchestrate a conversation and a culture where people feel comfortable to ask a question. For instance, what you will do is, as moderators, we talk to people who we know can contribute. So you nudge people from behind saying, can you please post? Can you please ask a question now? Can you please respond to this, right? So you're sort of orchestrating. And once two people have done it, people who you asked to sort of contribute to a dialogue, you see five more people who then just automatically come in. So sometimes we just as moderators, we ask a question and then just wait for people to respond. It doesn't always work. You have to orchestrate it and play behind the scene. So I think that really helps. It's very important, like we said, be member centric. You may have that in the heart, but what makes you truly member centric is creating processes to hear, to listen to members. So we do a lot of polls on WhatsApp, on LinkedIn, etc., to just really understand. And this is something we tried doing with you, Farhan. Thanks, you brought that into LDC as well, right? Let's do a member survey. And then you're thinking about how do you get more and more members to take that survey in the first place. So just listening to members' ideas and what they want to learn about, etc. Meeting members, one, I think this is actually, I should have started with that. The members, I think 90%, I don't know if Parisha would agree with that, but 95% members, I think, who are most active are the guys that moderators have met personally. So you see someone responding once, or somebody who joined new, and then you set up a conversation with them or have a chat with them on WhatsApp. Once they know the team, they feel more part of the community and then become more active. Then there's just taking time out to respond to member queries, showing yourself as a human and not an expert. That's very important. So people connect with people who just feel like human, right? So just it's okay to have a typos in what you write, or to just show your personality a little bit, and just say I'm feeling overwhelmed or I'm confused or whatever, like that. So just being human, and just soak in the members who have that community orientation. Just make them part of your team. I think uh, I think those are my top uh, tips on how to create a vibrant community.
So many gems there, Shraddha. So many gems. Parisha, would you like to add something before I add my thoughts?
Yeah, no, to Shraddha's statement on one-to-one interactions, I definitely have observed that the more we interact with people on a personal level, the more they're willing to start conversations, respond to other people's, or even come up with ideas that they would like to see within the community. So it just triggers lots of positive things if you're able to connect with them at a personal level.
I cannot agree more. I mean, there's so much that we are talking about that's really coalescing on this idea of, we are all individuals with our own vulnerabilities, with our own preferences, with our own interests, desires, and whatnot. And the community, ideally, what makes it member-centric and what makes it truly empowering is to offer that opportunity for each individual to be their genuine selves. If and when it's not the occasion for them to be, as much of an active member, that's totally fine. They'll get their opportunity hopefully some other time, right? But the fact that you're nurturing this culture of openness, of vulnerability, of, hey, we want to hear from you because we can't make this community better if you're not a part of it. So, be a part of it when you think you can contribute, right? And I think having that as maybe the fundamental golden rule, if you will, of the community has really helped you grow it to the level that
Definitely.
it's grown to
And
today. Yeah,
Farhan, I
please,
think to
Shraddha. Yeah.
what you said, about being vulnerable, it's not about taking on a position where you're sort of saying, we can't do it without you. It's to say, I am one of you, right? You're not
Yeah.
always coming in as administrator. You are a member. So I think Miriam, who's one of our community managers, at least she manages WhatsApp community, is just, she's sort of posting her questions. I post my questions. Just today, I was asking people if they've used a platform that I'm exploring for some other project that I'm working on. So you come in with you're also a member. You're not just an admin sitting right there and watching everyone or trying to inspire. But yeah, just being a member yourself also sort of, mm, I think it gives people an example to, follow in that sense.
Absolutely. And I think the other piece of it too is the fact that I would say one of the strongest components of your community is the fact that you've been able to do this in a way that really celebrates the diversity of all the backgrounds of the members that are in your community. Personally, I haven't seen a community where most of the members are from the developing world, right? And so you're really focusing on that demographic, on nurturing the types of problems and challenges, opportunities and hopes that are making their way, influencing the way that things are being done in 80% of the world. I mean, we think about it, right? And so much of learning and development has this Eurocentric or North America
Absolutely.
and Europe focus, right? So I would love to learn a little bit more about that, from both of you. Is how has that idea of diversity among so many different populations, how has that maybe been a challenge and a blessing? I'd love to hear about that.
Wow. I mean, yeah, Farhan, for one, just want to acknowledge that most communities that I was part of before LDC started, I wouldn't say most, all of them, they were all started by people and also mostly dominated by people from the West. So they were
Mm.
communities that were based out of US or Europe, right? And so it's very different, right? The kind of conversations that happen in our community. I mean, typically like the member-led conversations, I would say. And since the members are also from diverse sectors, it's both a challenge and yeah, there's a boon and a bane aspect to it, right? So you'd have very high-level conversations sometimes on AI. So, what are the global trends, so to say? And then there'll be, when the dialogue start, then there'd be members really talking about the the fact that people don't have devices, bandwidth is an issue. So there's always that conversation going on. I think there's that flux. So it's a place where you talk about global trends, but you're also then somebody would ground it in like the real context, saying, but we don't have devices. Our learners don't have that. Or so conversations like that happens, and which is very uh, I think it sort of expands the perspective of what we are talking. Otherwise, you can be very theoretical and very, uh, yeah, I think it just keeps us very grounded when people talk about their challenges and, some of the ideas that even we sort of bring out saying, oh, this is what's happening. Then somebody would say, but how do you do this? Let's say the educators in a class of 50 students, right? This works when you have five children sitting in circles or in the L&D context as well, right? So you have ideas about like how can learning and development be performance oriented, but there'll be members saying our clients won't allow us to talk to learners. They just tell us to create, click and move next kind of courses. That's what they want. What do you do about it? So, there is, I think it's a very beautiful flux, I would say, of like looking at what the possibilities are. And obviously, you can draw something from their inspiration, but also being very grounded in the realities of low resourced context as well.
Which is in many cases, Shraddha, just as important. Because you think about so many millions of people that are genuinely excited about all these trends,
Mhm.
right? But there are resource allocation, there are resource restrictions, and we need to cater to them as well. Learning and development professionals and people that are in the field need to be creative and figure out, okay, how do we address the challenges in those contexts, right? Because
Absolutely.
so much of learning is about just reaching the learner, meet the learner where they are, right?
Mhm.
We can be in the clouds in a theoretical space, design best practices and processes that look great on paper and great on a PowerPoint deck, but is it actually implementable at the
Yeah.
point of learning, right?
Yeah.
So it's so inspiring to hear that, as these conversations are taking place in these groups, everybody is, people are encouraged to bring their lived experience, their lived
Mm.
realities on the ground, right? I'm in Nigeria, I'm in South Africa, I'm in Thailand, whatever, right? These are the places where we need XYZ. Before we can even get to what we're talking about, we need some prerequisites addressed first, right? So
Mm.
having that honest conversation sounds really empowering. I'd love to ask you the same, Parisha. In your experience, been have you found that the diversity of the community, how has that influenced the way that you've seen community and how LDC has grown?
I think diversity is something that really makes us stand apart, both from sectoral perspective and also regional, and
Yeah.
especially because we represent, Global South with our core team members and members, a lot of members being from this region. So if you look at our events, sometimes we also try to adapt them to local context. So we have had expert talks where we specifically call people from different countries in the global south, and they were talking about their challenges when it comes to implementation. And similarly, if we have experts from all around the world, we invite them. So a lot of them are from the US and Europe, but based we try to steer the discussion in a direction which is applicable for other regions as well. And members always have the opportunity to ask questions. So if there's a framework that is from the west, how do we apply it in our own context? So that's something that we see people asking all the time. Or if somebody's let's say if we are talking about performance based learning design and somebody's from the education sector, they would first ask, what is performance to us? They never thought about performance. They always thought about learning and education. So, what does performance mean in an educational context, and how does that framework apply to them? Those kind of conversations are something very unique about our community that we haven't seen happen at other places, and people learn a lot from it. It opens their mind, and we also keep learning, right? We never asked these questions before. We never reflected on these. So we are learners ourselves, learning new things every day with other
I just want
members.
Yeah.
to add that, like
Please,
Parisha
Shraddha. Yeah.
said, right? There's a lot that I think education can learn from the corporate L&D sector. Like all, I think they integrate one emerging technologies first before education and the development sector does. But something that education sector does, at least some parts of education sector does is they actually get into the science of learning more than sometimes the corporate sector doesn't quite look at the research behind learning, one, and also assessments, because sadly our education system is a lot about assessments. But what's that resulted in is that there is a lot of work that goes into evaluating learning. So there's a lot that the L&D sector can learn from education on how do you evaluate learning, and also how do you use the whole educational research science of learning, from cognitive science, neuroscience, etc., in the way you design learning. So there's a lot that these sectors can learn from each other. The non-profit sector, the intention of learning in the non-profit sector is always behavior change. So there's a lot of work that goes into that, which education sector may not be that aware of, etc. So yeah, I think that's what we meant by cross pollination.
Yeah, cross pollination is just part and parcel of one of the things that makes the community strengthening process and the organic growth of a community that much more effective, right? And one of the other things that you mentioned, which I just want to briefly reflect on, I'm forgetting who mentioned it, but it doesn't matter. It's such a common theme that I keep hearing, is the goal of the community ideally is to get to the point where those members that are really stepping up to the plate can nurture their own communities. And you guys are already realizing this, right? So LDC has become a catalyst to create these communities in various areas of the world, where now you have maybe already an LDC chapter operating in Egypt, an LDC chapter operating in another part of the world, right? Because those folks have demonstrated that they are not only servant leaders, right? They're community centric, they're member centric. They've been so inspired by what you've done as a group as a whole that they're now willing to take those best practices and nurture their own communities in their contexts and in their geographies, right? So that's, for me, that's what's most exciting. But I'd love to dovetail into looking
I
at the
wish,
future a little bit.
Farhan, it was happening
Please,
as
Shraddha.
much as I would like, that there are
Oh,
chapters
really?
starting off, but I don't think it's happening. I mean, what's happening more of is, interest groups were forming within the community. So a member would say, this is a
Uh-huh.
topic that I'm interested in, let's say AI. And then they'd be like, are
Mm-hmm.
you interested in the same? Why don't you join something? And then those are offshoots. But I mean, we'd love, Parisha, and I would love if there were like chapters. We have that in our long term vision, to have
Yeah.
chapters in like Nigeria chapter and the India chapter. And but yeah, I think there's some time to get there.
Well, it's a great segue, Shraddha, to my next question, which is, where do you both see LDC growing in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months? if we were to have this conversation at the end of 2026, let's say, another 18 months, right? How would you, what is your vision to achieve in the next 18 months? And part two of this question, what do you need to get there?
Um, I mean, there's two dimensions to it, right? There is the
Yeah.
depth and then there is the scale. I think our focus is always on both.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that needs to be done for both of them. Uh, but I think in terms of the depth of our work, there's some things that we need to just continue doing that are working for us, but we've not quite developed an internal system to make it more efficient and make it more regular. So just, being able to do what we are doing better and faster and more efficiently so that we can then also do the other things that we are not able to do right now. Bandwidth is always an issue, and especially because it's a volunteer-led community. So all of the people who volunteer with us are doing their full-time jobs. This is something they do outside of that. So I think efficiency is very, very important to us. There's, in fact, our the most recent collaborator who joined us is actually just helping us with that. She's sort of trying to help us figure out how we can use AI to automate some of the things that we do every month to save everybody's time. So I think we are looking at, and we do that quite a lot. We use AI heavily to sort of save our time and energies. And um, so that's one. I think just getting our internal processes in place so that we are able to also, identify active members, onboard them quickly. We get a lot of requests from people saying, I want to volunteer with you, but we don't have a system of sorts that will quickly onboard them and sort of, match the community needs to what they can offer. So just getting that in place, I think that's one of our key priorities. Uh, uh, in terms of scale, of course, there's just a lot of countries, especially in Asia, that we've not, we don't have enough members from that we'd love to have. Language is always a barrier, right? Most of our communication happens in English, so we have to, I think, expand our reach. All of the work that we are doing, volunteers are doing, is for the field and for so the more the people that this can benefit, the better it is for everyone. So we have to work more actively on expanding the reach of our community. I think we've doubled in the last 3 months, and I think every couple of months we sort of double. But I think just also so connected to that is also the fact that we didn't know how big this will get so quickly. And because it is expanding so fast, we now have to figure out a way to sustain this, right? The energy that this has created, the momentum this has created. So we are just sort of beginning to think about at least figuring out the operational cost of the community. So all of our offerings are free because we are all, operating with just the desire to contribute to the field and to each other. But there are some logistical aspects to this, from the licenses to the website that we can build and to the stuff we can do if there was just some little money. So we're just beginning to start our sponsorship program, newsletter sponsors. Um, and yeah, just some of the even beginning to take contributions from our members, so just beginning to think about that. I think our goal is to also figure out that sort of financial model that can help us make this even larger than what it is right now. Parisha, what comes to your mind? And this keeps changing, Farhan. Like every couple of months, we're like, no, 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 this is more important than anything else. No, no, members are looking for this. Like, we just get very excited. We're all passion driven. So we get excited about new ideas and you're like, okay, okay, we'll figure the rest out soon. But yeah, what comes to your mind?
Yeah. So that reminds me of the visioning exercises Shraddha and I keep doing. And, we have so
Yeah.
many big dreams for the community, but the operational and sustainability aspects often come in the way. So yeah, so I think in the next few months, our focus would be on figuring out how to sustain so that we are able to do all of those things that, we envision LDC to be. In the long run, I think definitely we want to decentralize a bit in the sense that we want to have different chapters in countries where members can lead those because if we want to scale, we want to let go of some of the things that we are doing and let other people take charge. Also, as a community, our aim is really to help advance the field of learning design and also showcase the impact that is happening, not just to showcase the impact, but also to enable and empower learning designers to um, enhance the impact of their learning interventions. So that is the long-term goal that we have in mind with which we operate. And if we have to do, whatever resources we offer, events we organize, that is just for this goal in mind. How do we enhance the impact of learning interventions globally? And we also started our LinkedIn blog, which is on Global South's Learning Voices. So it's really to showcase the work that is already happening in the Global South, but is not has not come out in the world, because we keep hearing about things that are happening in the West, innovations in technology, but the things that are happening in this region are not uh, promoted as much. So that's also one of our main goals, to really uh, dig the hidden gems, the impact that's already taking place, and showcase it to the rest of the world.
Yeah,
I
and
think
just
those
one more
are.
thing to
Go ahead, Shraddha,
add.
please,
We,
please.
I think we've done. So Parisha had mentioned earlier on about this dialogue that we are having for this senior educators from 8 countries that have been meeting once every 6 months, trying to sort of build collaborations around. And right now their focus is on AI in education. So how do we use AI for something that we are calling truth centric evolutionary education? So, what role can AI play in making that happen across countries? So, there's some exciting conversations and exciting projects that are coming out of that. What we're just starting is to do something like that in the L&D space. So I think that's something we're very excited about, and it's just come out of this conversation. We had an expert talk on performance-oriented learning, and then we had a meetup with our members where they said, "Okay, we know we need to be more performance-oriented, but there's no scope to be because the client is asking for click and next kind of courses. They just need a course, and there's no scope to think beyond to really think about what would move the needle, so to say, or what role we can take, right? And then we realize that there's a lot of people who are just sort of stuck in the system, and it's they're not doing this out of because they don't understand that it needs to be different, but just because the system won't allow them to challenge the norm, or um, so we sort of bringing together senior learning designer not learning designer, sorry, senior L&D heads of organizations of across countries together to sort of really unpack where is the problem, like why are we stuck, why isn't the system moving, and for all the criticism of the L&D field that it doesn't align itself to business goals, what can we do jointly together? So where are the barriers and where are the levers? So in the process of with some help from Guy Wallace, who's advising us on this initiative, trying to bring together senior L&D folks to sort of solve this difficult problem. So that's another
Yeah,
one.
incredible. You guys definitely have your work cut out for you. I mean, without a shadow of doubt, but you have a great community and a great culture that you're nurturing that is going to, again, continue to be member centric, continue to be solutions oriented, context specific, right? And really kind of celebrating the diversity. And of course, the challenges are not going to go away, right? I think we have to acknowledge that. But I think with the sponsorship opportunities that you're pursuing right now and some of these other strategies to kind of automate and make your workflows more efficient, I think those are all positive steps. And I'm sure some of our listeners will be excited to learn how they can get in touch with you and the LDC community. So I'll put those notes, or I'll put the links and the contact information in the show notes, but I'd like to ask you both, how would you prefer that people reach out to you once they listen to this podcast?
Felicia, you can share all the links.
Yeah, so we are always looking for volunteers, collaborators, and people who want to contribute in any manner. And we can be reached out on, you can paste the links in the chat, but we have our Linktree page, web page, and social media channels. But we are open to getting messages across channels or wherever people want to reach out to us.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds great. I think maybe Shraddha's, maybe her power might have gone out. I'm not exactly sure. But it was, that's awesome to hear, Parisha. I'll definitely put those links in the show notes. And yeah, it was like a great experience having you both on the podcast today. Uh, and I can't wait to see how LDC continues to grow and really develop over the course of the next few months. It's exciting to hear that you guys have been, I think, doubling your numbers every 3 months. Is that what Shraddha mentioned
Yeah.
a short while ago? Yeah,
Yeah, it's been exponential. I think it's over 12 months. We just grew double every 2, 3 months. So
yeah.
yeah,
That's crazy. So probably by in the next, I don't know, um, I'm thinking in the next 3 months you'll get to 7,500 members, or maybe cross the 6,000 mark. I mean, that's incredible organic growth, right?
yeah. Ideally, that should have been the trajectory, but I think the more we grow, the more difficult it uh, yeah gets to grow further
Let's be
because there
ambitious.
comes a point where
I
Yeah.
think
yeah
there's a
Let's aim for
saying,
that.
Farhan, there's a
Yeah,
saying in
go.
Hindi which says, it says, Tere muh mein ghee shakkar, which means when someone says something really amazing, then you say, oh, the sugar and what? Sugar and ghee, but almost like butter in your mouth, which
Yeah.
means everything you say will come true.
Yes. That's the attitude to have. Yeah, why not? I mean, maybe the trajectory was a little bit less than what what we had anticipated, but yeah, the ghee and the shakkar together, that's what we need to aim for, right? So, um, that's fantastic. And Shraddha, I wanted to just also thank you for being a part of the experience. I was telling, Parisha as well, this was a really, really great collaboration, and I hope that our listeners not only get a lot of value from the episode, but also reach out to you in LinkedIn and all the other show notes, links that I'll include in the show notes. So, yeah, thank you so much for being a part of the experience.
This was lovely,
thank
Farhan. It
you.
was great to reflect on everything that LDC is to us, what community is. I think it was a amazing conversation.
Such a pleasure. Yeah.